again, welcome back. It has been a week, which means ready or not, it's time for another video. And today I am doing yet another one in my continuing series from book to film, basically like the differences between the two. However, this is also one of my continuing series of the many different versions of, because this particular one is a book that has two film versions. And the film/book/film that I'm talking about in this case is A Man Called Ove. The book A Man Called Ove is by Fredrik Backman. It was originally published in Sweden in the year 2012. This is, of course, the American edition, and I got it secondhand and it looks like it fell in the bath at one point, which I love. It means it has a history. This particular book has had two film versions. Not everyone in America at least knows this. There is the new American film version, came out a year or two ago, I don't know, with Tom Hanks' A Man Called Otto. However, there was, a few years prior to that, a Swedish film version, A Man Called Ove. Now a little bit of personal history to start. The fact is, I think I heard of the book, I'm not sure, but the first thing I knew about any of this, really, was that I saw the Swedish film version go by on Prime or something, whatever I watched it on. I'll find out where it is and put it in the description like I always do. I thought it looked interesting and I gave it a go, and I immediately fell in love, bought the film on DVD, and immediately watched it again with my oldest two children, both of whom very much enjoyed it, including my middle child, who is a hard sell. They like two movies in the whole world. Now, I'm not going to go in depth in the differences between the two because that would be a very long video. I do not like to ramble, believe it or not. I'm also going to take a bit of an unusual tack by going over the Swedish film first, because it was my first experience with the story. And I did last watch it about a year ago. I was thinking of re-watching it to have it fresh in my mind, and then I thought, no, I'm actually just going to give the impressions that stuck with me, because this is the sort of story that sticks with you. So here's a quick rundown of the story as told by the Swedish film. So now all he does is he visits his wife's grave and he walks around the neighborhood enforcing the rules. So he can be considered quite annoying by certain of his neighbors. Others just take him in stride. Now, because his wife died about 6 years ago and now he doesn't have his job anymore, he decides to let go of life in order to join her. And he tries several different ways in order to achieve this end. But he keeps getting interrupted. The first time, we meet his new neighbors, Parvana, who is an Iranian immigrant, her Swedish husband, and their adorable children. They are trying to back up a trailer, and Ove is the type of man who just can't sit and watch them try to break down his mailbox, even by accident. He has to go and show them the right way to do it. This sort of thing happens several times. Ove keeps getting interrupted, as I said. Parvana needs a ride to the hospital for her husband after he falls off a ladder. He gets roped into watching their daughters, and not being such a crusty old gent as he seems, he gets along with them pretty well. Then he tries again at the train station, which seems fitting even though he's concerned about the effect on the engineer, but he figures there's really nothing that he can help for it. He is on the verge of doing the act when a man next to him faints and falls onto the tracks, and then he has to help save that man's life. A local reporter gets wind of the heroic act and keeps trying to track him down. He keeps trying to evade her because he doesn't like to toot his own horn. However, what we see about Ove as he goes along is, as I said, he's not such a crusty old gent as he appears. He can snap at his neighbors, but he also helps them. We also see that he doesn't tend to judge people as much as you might think. There's a teenager who lives in the neighborhood named Adrian. He rides a bicycle and it needs repairs. Ove helps him learn to repair it. Adrian works at a shop with another teenager named Mersad. Mersad proves to be gay. Ove learns this but doesn't judge Mersad. Mersad's father, however, does judge him and will not accept him and ends up kicking him out. He and Adrian go to Ave's house having nowhere else to go, and Ove takes Mersad in. Ove later learns that his friend Rune, who was paralyzed with a stroke and lives with his wife Nita, who is increasingly having problems of her own, taking care of him, Ove learns that the people in charge, the bureaucrats, have plans to move Rune to a nursing home, and there's nothing Anita can do about it. So Ove tries to help them as well, and is finally successful at the very end. Well, almost the very end. Ove has a heart condition, which is an enlarged heart, and at the end he does pass on, but only after breaking out of his crusty shell a bit, and getting to know his neighbors, and them getting to know him a little bit better, and coming close with them. It is a beautiful story about how we all can affect each other's lives and build community. Throughout the story, we see flashbacks of Ave's life, which explain why he is the way he is. We learn that he's always had trouble with bureaucrats. They tried to demolish his childhood home, and later the home does go up in a fire, although that is an accident. He ends up sleeping on a train where he meets his wife Sonia. When young Ove wasn't so crusty, he became a crusty old man as an older man. But he was very awkward and reticent. He wasn't very social. However, Sonia was the type who always saw the good in people, and she saw the good in him right away, and they fell in love. Ove eventually ends up divulging in the present day that what happened to him and his wife was more than just the cancer that took her. When they were on vacation in Spain while young, she was pregnant, and they were both very excited about their baby. However, they were heading back on a bus when there was a crash, and he escaped without a mark, but she lost the baby and was left paraplegic. Ove had more trouble with the authorities due to that because Sonia was a teacher, or wanted to be a teacher, and the authorities would not let her teach because they said she couldn't access the school, and they weren't going to build a ramp just for her. So Ove builds the ramp instead. Sonia goes on to affect many children's lives, including Adrian's, who recounts that to Ove. At the very end, but the very end of the story, I promise, we see Ove, after his passing, awakening on a train to find Sonia sitting across from him, and oh boy, here I go.
So that was the Swedish film, and oh my gosh, it just, my heart, oh no! Now the book, A Man Called Ove by Fredrik Backman. It was his debut novel. I read the novel. There were many similarities between that and the Swedish film version. One thing that I was missing, which was a cute little note that they did in the film. Ove reluctantly lends his ladder to the neighbors so that they can try and open a window from the outside. He is very cautious about ladder safety, as he is with everything else, and he insists that they take the manual. The manual for the ladder. This does not exist in the book, but it was perfect. It was so perfect in the film. Other than that, to my recollection, it's very, very similar, which was wonderful. We don't have quite as much as in the book. Naturally, you have to cut something out. For example, we don't really learn about Sonia's father, and there's this whole great bit in the book where Ove meets her father for the first time. At first it doesn't go so well, then they find a point of mutual interest,
which kind of opens the door for the rest of the book. In both versions, we are very much learning about this man called Ove, what makes him tick, and why he is the way he is, and how there is a lot more to him than you think at first. The book was it was so much like the film, maybe just a little bit more, because this was the first book in a long time, if ever, I swear, that just was equal parts, equally balanced between, oh my goodness, like actually a little bit tearing up, and oh my god, okay, laughing out loud. Like total, I do not tend to do out loud reactions to books, so when I do, it's got to be a really good moment, at least for me. This book did such a great job of creating a relatable character and just helping you enter his world, but also it's a very relatable world because it's very much our world. And this particular world within these pages, I didn't want to leave, but at the same time, that's kind of the idea, is like you take something from it and try to give it into the real world. Yes, first time in a long time I felt that way about a book. A Man Called Otto, the movie, which I just finally watched. I was kind of reluctant to after having watched the first movie. I'm like, first of all, remakes, right? Remakes, reboots, whatever. My personal opinion is that if you're going to bother, then add something fresh to it that really helps flesh out the story or see characters in a different way or something new that makes you go, oh, okay, that's neat. I get where you're coming from. I get why you did this. Now, when it comes to remakes in different countries, every country does it if they can afford to. They go and do their own version. And I get that because you probably make more money, I'm guessing, or potentially make more money if you make your own version than import somebody else's. I'm guessing that's the reason anyway. Other than that, I don't see any reason for this movie to have been remade. The first one was perfect, practically, and it was so good. Believe me, just look it up and watch it. And it was relatable. I remember reading somewhere that their excuse for making an American version said that, oh, well, the Swedish one is kind of dry, dark humor, and Americans aren't going to really relate to that. And I'm going, there was nothing not relatable about this film that I saw. Well, watch it and judge for yourself. Anyway, Man Called Otto, I was reluctant for that reason. I was like, it's a great story no matter what. It's relatable across the world. I know they're going to do a good job of it. Tom Hanks is going to do a great job. So with that in mind, I gave it a go. Now there are several differences, besides it just being set in America, in Pennsylvania, like in the Pittsburgh area was where they filmed it, and it fits. There are some great parts that they kept, including some great lines. They kept his telling the neighbor, you are not a complete idiot, which to him is the highest form of praise. There's Sonia's line about telling him that we have to live when tragedy has struck. And that helps him get through very dark times. And there's also that line from the novel that just made me go, oh, about his world being black and white and Sonia being all the color. Now in this one, his neighbors are not Iranian. The neighbors are, I'm not sure where they're from, and I don't want to get it wrong. They speak Spanish. They are from a Spanish-speaking country, Latino or Mexican, or I'm not sure. And the lady's name is Marisol. Other than that, we have her very short and very pregnant compared to her very tall husband, which was always cute how much shorter she is than everybody else. I appreciate that, being very short myself. Of course, we have some other names Americanized. Anders has become Andy. Rume has turned to Ruben. Otto and Ruben have their battle with cars, but this time it's Fords and Chevrolets. and the importance laid on the cars isn't made clear, like it is more in the Swedish film and definitely in the book. The children teach Otto some Spanish when he babysits, which is very sweet, and the oldest has a thing about the Mexican wrestling figures. Instead, in the book, she likes to play on the computer and make houses. One thing I found quite interesting is that Mirsad is not a character in this. Instead, we have Malcolm, who is a mashup of the characters Adrian and Mirsad, and is a transsexual. His father's not the owner of the cafe. We never meet his father. Instead, he just moves into this found family type of thing, and Otto takes him in and teaches him about cars. Other differences. The trip to Spain is replaced with one to Niagara Falls, and I don't feel that the bus crash is done quite as effectively as in the Swedish version. The shot with him in the bathroom is just amazing. And we don't spend as much time on the whole trip. When it comes to flashbacks, we see him meeting his future wife at a train station, and he goes onto her train instead of his and returns a book she lost. He does not work at the train station. He doesn't work with trains at all. We barely find out anything about his father. There's one brief shot, basically. So we don't know the importance of the cars. We don't see as much about him growing up at all. The part with his house burning down while he helps out the neighbors is completely gone. It's not there. We also, although we spend some time with Otto and Sonia, up to and a little bit after the accident, we don't stick with them much after that. So we see how he stands up for his wife, like literally stands up in the middle of a meeting, and that's supposedly what causes the rift in the homeowners association. But we don't see him continually just putting himself out there. And of course, in the Swedish version of the film and in the book, we have that great sequence of him building the ramp for his wife when the school will not build her one, because otherwise she can't teach, and she has to go and teach and help all these kids, and that's her legacy. So that sort of thing is kind of a big deal, I feel. Also, the ending is sped up quite a bit. There's the big ending is when the journalist who's been bothering Otto, and then there's the company is trying to kick out Rume and Anita. In this case, it's the real estate company. I don't remember who it was in the first place. Maybe it was a real estate company. So we have all that, and Otto has, engineered this whole meeting up of everyone. However, we don't see him doing as much, playing to his strengths as much. What we get is we get the real estate company bringing people to bring Rume away, so that Anita, who has Parkinson's, will lose the home and they'll be able to get it out to somebody else and probably jack up the price. Then the journalist arrives. In this one, she is a social media journalist and shows up with her camera and shames the people into, just going away. And instead of the entire community saying, we'll take care of Rume and Anita, it's Jimmy who steps up. I'm not sure if that works quite as well. It seemed a little too neat an ending, I thought. Then, right on the heels of that, literally, Otto is walking back down the street when he has his heart attack that lands him in the hospital. So that's boom, boom, boom. When he's in the hospital and Marisol comes to meet him, and of course, this always happens in American films, she goes into labor. After that, they do have the baby growing up a little bit before Otto finally passes away. So that part was accurate. And they do keep showing him almost having an episode a couple of times, so that we know that it's coming, we know that it's imminent. But I don't feel that was necessary either, because he's older, not that old, but he's older, and he's got a heart condition. So it stands to reason this is probably going to happen if you keep the movie going as you're doing. So I will say, the movie was well done. Again, it is a story that just works all across the board. And the performances were very good. Yes, look out for Cameron Britton, because he was also in the Umbrella Academy. So nice to see him in something else. But I just didn't feel that it worked so well. I don't know, it wasn't as special. And I think part of the reason is, as I said, we didn't see a lot about Otto growing up. There weren't as many flashbacks like that. So we really didn't have as much basis as to who he was and why he was that way. You didn't really get to understand him as much as in the other versions. Even during Marisol's driving lesson, there's the part where the young guy comes up behind him and starts honking, and Otto loses it, gets out and pulls him out, And there's no explanation as to how Otto is strong enough to do this, when there's plenty of explanation in the other versions. So yes, I just feel that those are the things that really flesh Otto out as a person and really help you to understand him. And these things unfold gradually and naturally as the narrative moves along. And they did that in the American version, but it was like A Man Called Ove light. There was enough there, but there could have been more. So yes, to finish up, Man Called Ove book, exquisite and touching from start to finish. Man Called Ove, the movie, also exquisite and touching from start to finish. Not quite, but the book is a little bit more, but also so good. And lastly, A Man Called Otto, the movie, I would also recommend it. I would, but I would recommend the others more. So, that's it for now. Have you seen or read any of these versions, and what are your thoughts? Also, what are your thoughts on remakes and cross-country, I guess you could call it, remakes? Put them in the comments. I would love to hear from you. And until next week, hang in there, champ. You can do it. You can do this. I believe in you. Go and read more books and watch more movies and take care of yourself and each other. And I will see you next week. Bye.